Okay, our last presenter is Dustin Polasek. Dustin grew up in West Texas ranching, and he joined the Marine Corps at the age of 17. Hoorah. After serving 8 years, Dustin was medically retired and journeyed to CSU, where he earned his Bachelor of Science in Forest Management and a Master's in Ecological Restoration. Dustin is currently leading Nutrien's research into UAV applications, and he's going to talk about weed management and use of UAVs. So we'll turn that over and want to welcome Dustin.
Where's the clicker and where's that
Right
mic?
there, and there's that. You want the hand mic?
Hand mic.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect.
All right, can everyone hear me all right?
Yep.
All right, thank you for having me out this evening, I guess, at this point. This is actually my last speaking event in this position. As much as we were doing in the research phase, we have actually passed our research phase at this point, and we are moving into a full operational phase. So as of October 1st, I am the chief pilot for the Nutrien Solutions, and I'll be running our entire national program. So kind of a big promotion for me, and I'm pretty excited about it. With that, I really do believe in the UAV technology. We have about 6,000 acres altogether down in West Texas that we're running cattle on. We actually have gotten rid of most of our horses at this point. We actually do about 90% of our operations with UAVs, including moving cattle, spraying, going out and monitoring cattle. We can actually use our thermal cameras at night, and we can actually watch during obviously when they're giving birth, and we can actually see when they're about to give birth. We can actually see a temperature drop on the cow, so we know when they're about to throw their kid, and we can actually get out there, make sure everything's going to do what it needs to be done. So UAVs have actually kind of improved our life quite drastically, especially when we're talking about large acreage that we cover and we manage. A little bit about who we are at Nutrien, what we cover. We're pretty much your natural resources experts. Not only are we ag, we do the ag side of the house, but we do spend a lot of time in the natural resources field. We work with your environmental, forestry, aquatics, rangeland, wherever you can, whenever you think natural area, we're there. Roadside applications, we handle all that as well too. A little bit about what we're going to cover today. It's pretty simple. A little bit of background about me so you understand who you're talking, who's up here talking. After we get into that, we'll do a little bit of definitions. We're going to talk about some modern equipment, some of the limitations that we have with modern equipment. We'll get into UAVs, some of the actual benefits of them, some of the limitations of UAVs, because even though they are new tool to our toolbox, there already are some limitations that we have found with this, just like every other tool in our toolbox out there. Following that, we'll get into a couple UAVs. We're not going to do the flight demo. Obviously, we can't do that at this point because there's no point in taking you all out. We can talk a little bit about what we can do with the UAVs. And my biggest and fun comment right now is it's not a matter of if at this point, it's just a matter of when. I am not the only person in this room right now that is actually looking at doing UAV applications. There are actually, there's a private individual here as well. There are other private entities. This is going to be here next year. This is why I like to give this talk, because this year we were the ones out there doing it. Next year, you are going to see so many of these, it is going to be unreal. You're going to see them on the roadside. You're going to see them out in someone's range. You're going to see them out in someone's ranch. You're going to see them out in the forest. You're going to see them in aquatic environments over lakes. They are going to be everywhere next year. I promise you that. With that, we'll kind of get into some questions at the end. And I've got a really cool video where we actually set up a swarm, and we'll actually let you see what a swarm looks like in operation. A little bit about me, as they said, medically retired from the military, served from 2005 to 2012. During my tenure, I was actually in the infantry for the most part. I got to go over to be a breacher instructor for a little bit, got into some counter intel stuff. And on my last little stint, I was actually working as an explosive ordnance disposal technician. I was a bomb tech, the Hurt Locker guys. Yeah, fun times. Following that, got my bachelor's in forestry at CSU, my master's in restoration ecology. I am a restoration ecologist by definition. I've been working in vegetation management since about 2014. I always say that's a very loose 2014 because I've been working in vegetation management my entire life since I've been raising cattle. Working with cattle, you are in vegetation management at all times. So when I say 2014, that is actually professionally. That means I was making money. People were paying me because I knew what I was doing. Amazing. All right, some definitions we want to talk about. UAV, what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about what most of y'all refer to as drones. That is not a true term for them, though. Drone is a slang term for a UAV. A drone is something that can actually have a man put on it. There are drones out there. That means people can actually be flown around from someone on the ground and they can fly it. That is the definition of a drone. An unmanned aerial vehicle is, by what it means, it is unmanned. It cannot have anybody on it, cannot have personnel on it. It is unmanned. So that is the first thing I like to get out there. We work with nothing but UAVs in our side of the house. We do not work with drones. Unmanned aerial systems. So when we start thinking about UAS, that's when you need to start thinking about swarms. So what I'm talking about with swarms is imagine me putting 4 to 5 UAVs up in the air by myself, and I'm controlling every single one of those from one ground station. It's easy to do, actually, believe it or not, and you'll see at the end of the video. I talked about drone, those low volume applications. This is kind of the unique aspect of UAVs. When we're working with them, we're normally anywhere from 1 to 5 GPA. And that is an extremely ultra low volume application. It's actually ULVA is what it's known as. It is really unique working in these ultra low volumes because number one, we're obviously water conscious at that point. That is a big issue out here in Western United States, utilization of water. So now we're actually using a lot less water for our applications. A lot of people go, well, how are you effective at those application rates? Well, we're actually extremely effective because what it comes down to, it comes down to your droplet size and it comes down to your adjuvants. So those are the big 2 ticket items that we're working with and we're manipulating whenever we're doing any of our UAV operations. And modern equipment, think modern equipment. ATVs, UTVs, guy out there with a backpack on him, hosing it down. A little bit of history. I like to bring this up because everyone seems to think that UAVs are actually a new thing. In reality, they are old. They are extremely old. First one flew back in about 1782. It was a balloon that they used to actually go do reconnaissance. Following that, you jump up to the 1800s, we see the first time UAVs see combat. We had a French lieutenant go ahead and strap some bombs to some balloons and send them over the freaking barriers and start bombing dudes with them. That is a UAV doing its job. Now we get a little bit earlier. We go to the 1917. This is the first conventional UAV as all of us know it. This thing could actually go up in the air. It could fly itself. It was not very accurate. It was not very stable in the air, but it did the job. The other name for it, besides the Kittering bug there in 1917, is the aerial torpedo. Amazing how we keep talking about military. Let's keep thinking about that as we're going here. Keep thinking about that. I got a big question here, and it does behoove you to answer my questions. I do ask that if you get the question correct, you come see me at the end of class because I have a bad out Spyderco knife to give you. Yeah. All right, now we jump up to the 70s. We got the Predator. That is the Predator that everyone knows. That's the thing that's over in Middle East kicking some butt right now, doing its job. That is the Predator, 1974, 50 years ago. Pretty old. Jump up to where we are now. Obviously, we see the tech phase that we've gone through over in 2014. We saw all the DJI stuff coming out, saw the regulatory side of it coming out in about 2017. And now it moves us to where we are now, where we've got drones actually doing spraying applications for us, fully automated. Current uses of our UAVs today, obviously we got the imagery guys. We got the guys that are going out there. They're wanting to take videos of their Jeeps doing some awesome stuff. But when you start thinking about imagery and rangeland, does anyone have any experience with that? Multispectral. If anyone's ever heard of multispectral, this is probably the coolest thing you will ever use in a rangeland environment. What my multispectral imagery drone does for me is it flies over all your properties. It takes 7 photos as it's flying over. And it takes a lot of those photos, numerous times. And it'll build me a map of your property. And off that map, I can go through and I can go look at the nutrition of your plants. I can go look at the species composition of your plants. I can go look and see where your water is running. I can go look and see where you're having water issues. That's just with one drone flight. It can do about 100 acres in an hour. So in an hour, I know 100 acres of your property better than a lot of you even know it. That's all it takes. That's imagery drones for you right there. Military, obviously we've talked about that. I want to bring this up one more time because all of y'all did something today. And as I like to put it, UAVs are the next GPS.
How many of y'all use GPS today? Who knows where that technology originates from? The military. We were doing what y'all did with your GPS back in 2005. I could be in Iraq. I could literally see where my units were moving to. I could text my buddy off my Blue Force tracker and tell him I needed him to go over to XYZ. I could literally send him the coordinates off of that. 2005. Bring us to where we are now. Y'all finally have that technology. The UAVs that we're seeing right now in the civilian sector are so scaled down compared to the stuff that we've already worked with. It's unreal. This technology is just now starting to flood into the civilian sector as well as it should. This is the next GPS. It's not a matter of if at this point, it's just a matter of when now. With that, we've got a lot of applicators. In Colorado alone, we actually have 3 commercial applicators currently. My business actually is one of them. Me and my business partner, Justin, own Rise Drones Services. We're out of the Grand Junction and Colorado Springs area. So we actually do offer applications. There's another company up in the Windsor area, and there is a third company starting down here in this area.
What do you mean application?
We go out and we conduct full-scale applications. I do brush control. I do cheatgrass management. I do weed management. I do seeding operations. I do aquatic applications. Any application you can think that you can do with your tractor or your ATV or your UTV, I can do with my drone. 100%. I've even put it through trees. We literally are flying through forests and underneath canopies with these bad boys. They can work really well for us. Current limitations. Well, we start thinking about the environment that we work in. We start thinking about the ranges that we work in alone. What's a big thing that we come across in our ranges? Waddies. You have big cutouts. You have big erosion waddies. You have all these things that you'll come across. Well, guess what? When I'm riding my ATV, that matters because I don't want to go into one of those and I don't want to end up rolling my ATV. But when I'm flying my drone, oh well, let the thing go buzz over it and it'll track that land perfectly for me. And I don't have to put myself at any risk. So we're out of that risk area. So I think about our manpower shortages. If you come to our side of the house where you're actually doing this on a public application aspect, good luck finding workers right now. Try telling a kid to go take a backpack and go hump Mount Sopris with it to look for Canada thistle. It ain't gonna happen. You go get one of these kids though and you show them a drone and you show them what this thing can do and a PlayStation generation comes out of him and he's ready to rock and roll with that bad boy. It's the reality of the situation, guys. We got to start thinking about this. How do we start getting these new generations into natural resources, into agriculture? These are dying industries for us right now, but this is our way to start reinvigorating them, bringing this new blood in. We talked about that risk of injury already. Risk of injury also due to the application area. How many of you are sitting on the side of your road, spraying your ditches, making sure that they're all clean of cheatgrass and other fun stuff? Anyone? Am I the only one on roadsides right now? I know Curtis is too. Yeah. So imagine this, you're driving by, you see a drone doing that job. See a UAV doing that job now. Get the roadside applicator off the road. Traditionally, for most of us roadside applicators, we like to start real early in the morning. Normally about 4 or 5 in the morning. You know who also out 4 or 5 in the morning? Drunks and tired salesmen like me. We're not very reliable on the road. Half the time I'm on a cell phone, guys. Come on, at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm already on the phone. I'm not saying that trying to be proud of it. I'm saying it because it's dangerous to be out on that road. As a roadside applicator, it is dangerous. There's a reason fire trucks have to park certain ways on highways because they are anticipating the wreck. Something to think about. Risks of the actual applicator. What else? How many times have you been out on a range and all of a sudden the wind shifted on you and next thing you know, you're covered in blue and you look like a freaking Smurf? I call it getting smurfed out. I've been there. Everyone's been there once in their life. If you've done any spraying, you've all been smurfed out. UAV, I'm nowhere near that application area. The only time I'm at risk of any exposure is actually when I'm doing any mixing. And if you start actually getting with a closed caption system and you actually work a true closed caption system, you have no exposure risk whatsoever. Oh, and that last line, precision. When we start running RTK, we have centimeter level accuracy. And when I say centimeter, I mean literally 1 to 2 centimeters off. Even with a handgun, I am not that accurate. I try my best, but there's no way in heck I am that accurate with a handgun. So now we're talking about the most precise sort of application you can look at, the easiest form of application, and the safest form of application you could possibly use. Seems like a win-win-win to me. Current limitations, federal regulations. So one of the big issues we have right now is the FAA. What I can do down in South America, and what I was doing about 3 weeks ago down in South America, was flying 20 drones at one point. I cannot legally do that in the United States. I can only fly up to 3 to 5. They will not allow us to do that. There are a lot of restricting factors with the FAA currently that we're still working through. What they are doing in China, we wish we could be doing here right now. That's all there is to it. Because if we could actually use these UAVs to the fullest extent, we could almost all be out of business at this point, to be honest with you. It's kind of sad. Battery capability, limiting factor. That's probably the biggest headache of it all. But at the end of the day, when you actually start thinking about these batteries, I'll run 22 minutes on a battery full charge. Normally it takes my UAV about 5 minutes to complete a full application. So it'll go out with 4 gallons on it right now. That's my medium model that I actually have sitting in my truck with us. So it'll go out, it'll complete its application in about 5 minutes. It'll roll through that, it'll come back, it'll land. I'll swap the battery on and I'll put a new battery on. I'll take that battery, I'll put it on a charger, 3 battery system, and you have continuous work for the day.
How much land do you cover at 4 gallons?
4 gallons, that's 2 acres worth of product, 2 gallon per acre. So with my 18-gallon model, he does that he does about 9 acres, and he'll do that in about 7.5 minutes.
About what?
7.5 minutes. So, pretty productive. Some of the other big issues, one of the other last things that I like to talk about is that public view interest. And this is why I actually like teaching these classes. Because right now, when people start seeing me put these drones up in the range and they start seeing all this stuff, it's kind of crazy how fast, is this not working? All right. It's kind of crazy how fast we end up having a pile of people. My VO traditionally becomes the guy that's actually managing the group that's behind over there. Because on a typical application, we have about 20 to 30 looky-loos stop and just actually want to see what we're doing. Nothing wrong with it. So it's actually a great thing to me, because this is actually kind of changing that public perception. You know, when the UAVs came out, everyone thought they were spying on them. They thought they were an issue. They thought they were just going to be looking through their houses or something like that with some bad out cameras, you know. It's not the case. You know, half of the spray drones that we actually run don't even have a conventional camera on it that can actually penetrate anything good. Yes, ma'am?
So how are you looking at it to see that you're getting the right read?
So remember how I talked to you about that multispectral drone? We'll send that multispectral drone out first, and we'll actually let it go identify everything for us. And it does all the work for us. And then I go, yep, and then I take that and I transfer it straight over to a program on my computer, and I literally build the application 100% off of that. I don't even have to go do ground truthing half the time anymore. I can walk out on scene with the UAVs, pull them out, and just let them start going to rip and ray. Awesome. And one of the lines I like to talk about, new technology. Obviously, as you can see, there are some wrecks. There are some issues that are coming off with the technology as we keep going through it. There are going to be some changes with it. It's obviously new tech, so it's going to happen. One of the big concerns that I have right now is actually vehicles and traffic, because in case anyone didn't see it yet, which I doubt anyone did, but there was definitely a giant UAV put into a truck in China, and it killed a man, unfortunately. So it's, you know, guys not doing what they should be doing, not being trained as well, and that's kind of going to that regulatory side of the house. You know, I talked about regulations earlier and even mentioned on this. The 137 used to be a 2-year process for us to be able to get that license. It is now a 48-hour process. They shortchanged that about 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Completely changed all the regulatory aspect on it. You don't have to do a check ride. You don't have to go sit in front of the FAA, test in front of them or anything. It's a completely different world now. This is why I'm telling y'all are going to see so much of this next year. It is going to be unreal, because the big barrier to limitation, the big barrier to entry was that Part 137, and it is not anymore. It is now a 48-hour, go check out online, and you got it. So not a good thing, because it's going to unfortunately cause a lot of incidents, and we're probably going to see some major wrecks next year, and we're probably going to see a lot of companies start, which is going to be fantastic for me, because I'm going to be picking up a lot of cheap used drones. Some of our success, obviously, in the mountains, we've done pretty good. Rangeland, is probably one of my favorites. Today, actually, this morning, we were actually out doing Rejuver applications. Does anyone know what Rejuver is for? Cheatgrass. Best stuff in the world. So it just so happens that I worked with Dr. Derek Sebastian for several years, and I got to do all the groundbreaking studies on that, and I was actually out with him in Pierce. I was out with him out in western Colorado when they were throwing all that stuff down for the first times. I've worked with Rejuvera since it was just a little numbers on a bottle, basically. It's an awesome product. It's fantastic. I love that product. Great in a range environment, and it shoots well out of a UAV. We were literally doing nothing but UAV applications with them today. My UAV that I got in the back of the truck did about 100 acres worth of Rejuvera applications today by itself. And that's one drone right now.
Can you also cover the application rate? Is that what you increased on the weed?
I was at 5 gallon per acre on that. So high application rate at that. So that's actually the highest that we're willing to go. 2 gallon per acre is my traditional. Normally at 2 gallon per acre, that drone's doing about 17 to 20 acres an hour.
What else does that kill?
It's really just a seed inhibitor is really what it actually is. It's a CBI, cellulose biosynthesis inhibitor. So it's actually going to inhibit seed growth for the following year. It's going to inhibit germination specifically. So like when we're going after cheatgrass, one of my favorite things to do is like a July, August application, especially up in the mountains, because we can normally dial in a rain time after that. Cheatgrass in this area typically goes into germination time frame in late August, early September. So by knowing that it's going to go into that germination cycle around that time, if we can get the Rejuvera out in front of that germination cycle from occurring, we can actually get it incorporated into the soil with the rainfall that's occurring. We'll have it set right in time for that germination cycle to start kicking up, and it'll inhibit a lot of that germination from occurring. The beautiful thing about Rejuvera is it picks up a lot of your broadleafs as well too. So like kochia, pigweed even, a lot of them, it'll inhibit the seed on those too. It's not going to inhibit all the seed on those, but it is going to help you. It is going to help a lot at that. If you go look at most roadside applications now, the premier products that they're running is aminocyclopyrachlor, Method 240SL, and then Esplanade 200SC, which is your Rejuvera combo. Esplanade and Rejuvera are the same identical products. Esplanade is labeled for roadsides. Rejuvera is labeled for range and pasture. That is the difference. You want to know the other fun difference? Esplanade, $1,400 a gallon. Rejuvera, $1,067 a gallon. They're taking it to them roadside guys good, aren't they? With that, though, we started talking about those manpower shortages. So we talked about swarming. How many of you can go put a backpack and go take 5 backpacks, put them out in the field and go spray? Just doesn't happen. I can go put 5 drones out in the field and go spray. And they're going to go spray. And they're going to do the job for me. So we started talking about those manpower issues. Well, now not only do I want to get some of these younger guys in, we're going to get them in, but I don't need as many of these younger guys now. I just need the select few that are really going to get into this and really get their heads wrapped into this, understanding the chemistry, understanding that side of the house. Because finding a drone pilot's easy. Finding people who understand the chemistry like everyone in this classroom does is hard. So, kind of something to think about with that. I think we've kind of hit all the big stuff on that, so we'll jump forward. This is our 116. This is my 4-gallon model. This is the baby model, as I like to put it. We have a smaller model, that's a 2-gallon model, and then we jump up from there. The next one's a 12-gallon model, and then the biggest one is our 18-gallon model. They are extremely productive, especially when you start putting 3 of them up in the air at a time. That 1 gallon per acre note down there at the bottom, that's a dream right now for all of us. We are praying for 1 gallon per acre, and we are working on it. That's part of what my research has been focused on. We've actually done quite a few 1 gallon per acre hits that were just as successful as my 2 and 3 gallon per acre hits. Once again, talking about droplet size and adjuvants, that's where those 2 guys come in to be big players right there. We're not going 100% full forward with 1 gallon per acre hits and telling people that they can do them yet, because once again, number one, start looking at labeling. Most labeling says anywhere from 3 to 5 gallon per acre minimums. So you're going to be breaking labels, obviously. And the second aspect of that is it's kind of crazy when you really start seeing a 1 gallon per acre application. It is not a lot of product going down. It is very minimal, and a lot of people don't believe in it. So when you start telling them that you're going to do 1 gallon per acre hits, a lot of people actually get more scared of the UAVs than they were initially, and they push us further away. So we're kind of sticking to that 2 gallon just until people really start understanding how bad out and awesome these units really are and how much they can really do for us. Once we get a little bit more of that out there, we get a little bit more research into these 1 gallon hits, we are going to be moving down to the 1 gallon per acre stuff. We are going to be kind of focusing most of our stuff around there. Probably brush control will still be up at that 5 gallon, and we do bare ground at 5 gallon per acre too. So, but 1 gallon per acre is the dream. And when we get there, the productivity level is just going to be unreal.
Is wind a real issue?
No, because of prop wash. So if you actually watch as the UAVs are flying, we're 8 to 10 feet off the ground, or 8 to 10 feet off of vegetation. We're very close to the ground in comparison to conventional aircraft. With that, you will actually notice from the actual props, they push all the droplets down really good, and they actually get it down in there. The other cool thing was like working with corn. We actually noticed like corn earworm specifically, we actually got a lot better of a hit than our helicopter pilots and our aircraft pilots did. And we think a lot of that actually came from that downforce aspect, because when you watch the corn, that stuff is literally whipping when it's getting pushed down there. And if you watch the droplets, they're moving in like almost a circular convection, and it brought them up into that corn earworm where it actually was sitting. So it actually had some really good effect. You got to western Colorado right now, we had 7,000 acres that we ran over there ourselves.
So what about seeding?
We've got spreaders on them. I can do seeding, I can do fertilization, I can throw granular herbicides into aquatics. Productivity on that's going to drop a little bit on the seeding. I don't really talk about the productivity on that, because that really comes down to the size of the material you're throwing at that point on how your productivity is going to be. So that's kind of a variable on the spreader on that one for productivity levels. Swath on this is variable, 7 to 25 foot. So that's another cool thing about it, is if we want to adjust a swath, say we're getting a specialty, we're wanting to go hit like just one line for some reason, we're wanting to go take care of your fence lines, we can actually set it up to where it'll literally just go burn your fence line for you. So thinking about got some woodies coming up on your fence line out in the range, you need to get rid of them, that's the guy to go take care of them for you. Like I said, 25 to 30 minutes unladen flight time, 15 to 20. I'd say you're right at 22. The one thing about this that I like to bring up is this is an American-made drone. That does not mean all the parts are made in America. That means the programming is in America. That is the only difference between this and the other next drone I'm about to show you. The big difference between them is the price tag. This is a $40,000 unit, unfortunately, because of that American-made tag on it. And the next one is a $20,000 unit, but it is Chinese. So nothing wrong with DJI. I actually love DJI. They were the first really into the drone side of the house, especially coming into the civilian market. They're probably the prominent player right now. Definitely has a great production capability. This is an older model. The T20 no longer even exists on their production line. They've moved to a T30 and a T40. The T30 is just, when they're with their numbers, all that's talking about is how many liters it can hold, basically. So the T30 is a step up, T40 is a step up from that. Once again, for our AG116, it holds 16 liters. If you move up the numbers on it, it's just once again talking about how many liters it can hold. The T30 is an awesome unit. It's probably one of my favorite units to fly if I'm not flying on U.S. government property. If I'm flying on U.S. government property, I only fly Helio. And that's because they actually have regulations involved that actually restrict us from flying DJI on their property. The cool thing about the DJI that I really, really love is how fast they are on scene. They're really quick to get set up. They're really easy to get set up. And as far as like an entry-level unit, they're probably the easiest unit to fly. They really are. They're just very simple to fly, very self-explained. The remote will really walk you through a majority of the issues that you could possibly have. The Helio units, on the other hand, they take a little bit more skill to fly. You have to spend a little bit more time understanding them because you're actually using a true GCS. You're using a ground control station, so you're using your laptop to fly. You can use a controller, but you are primarily using your laptop with those, which is a unique aspect because with my DJI, I can't do a lot of that planning, that four-plot planning that me and you were talking about earlier. But with my Helios, I can very easily. So it's a fantastic aspect with them too. I think that's really it for the DJI. What can we do? Well, we talked about kind of those calibrations down there at the bottom. We can do blanket applications, which is what you're seeing kind of up in that top left corner. We can do spline or linear applications. So if we need to go run like a ditch, if we need to go run some ditch sides or something like that, we can actually set that up to literally just go burn straight up your ditch side. If we want to run 10 foot off your ditch, we can go set it up to where it'll burn a 10-foot swath right off your ditch perfectly for you. The other one is the spot applications. So that's what that bottom left corner is. So we found patches of Canada thistle out in our range that we want to take care of. When we went out with our multispectral drone, it showed us where all that Canada thistle was. I'll go on that map, and it'll literally have all those Canada thistle lit up for me. And it'll be bright and blue and sunny for me, and I'll literally just go start dropping spots on it. That spot is about an 8-foot spot that drone will shoot for you. So it's going to cover about an 8-foot little circle. It's going to literally go sit over that spot, and it's just going to rotate slowly over it for you. And it's just going to cover that whole little 8-foot bubble and kill all that Canada thistle under there for you.
What's the highest altitude you go to?
That's a great question, and one I don't have an answer to, because at the end of the day, if you're doing something like that, you're playing with it. You're not using it for its intended purpose.
Well, I'm thinking more of doing this on the side of Mount Evans where they're having a terrible Canadian thistle problem and they're doing it manually.
I was already up in Aspen spraying with it all the time. It's already been up on Mount Ebert up there actually a few times, and it's already taken care of all sorts of stuff, even at 10,000 feet. The only thing that happens then, what's that?
I'll get your card and pass it over.
Yes, ma'am. And
We're taking horses out of green water.
I remember those. I've done those. We actually had a mule guy over in Aspen. He used to run mules, and I used to go up with him all the time. So I've done mules up in Aspen. I've done that whole fun stuff. I refuse to do them ever again. I'll just bring a drone from here on out, to be blunt and honest. I mean, it is so much simpler. And we've flown all over Aspen. There isn't a single spot up there I have not touched. I've been...
Mount Evans is, we're talking Mount Evans,
Yeah.
whatever they're calling it starting tomorrow.
Yeah. But we've had it all the way up to 12,000 so far. The only difference that we saw at 12,000 feet was a little bit of battery life, and that's due to the power loss because of the air actually up there. The air's a little bit thinner, so it has to actually increase its power up a little bit. It has to ramp up, so we lost about a minute of flight time or so on it. Yeah. Not a big thing. Then that last point on here is that key to success, water quality adjuvants. A lot of people don't check their water before they actually start spraying. Water quality is a huge, huge deal. I actually teach a 2.5-hour long class on nothing but water quality before spraying. Probably one of the biggest and most overlooked aspects. Something I like to say is you're worried about that 1% that you put into your tank, that chemistry, but you forget about the other 99%. And that 99% does matter.
What aspect of water quality?
Your turbidity, so any sort of sediments or anything like that, that's going to have organic molecules for your chemistry to lock into. pH is off. It can actually have pH hydrolysis. Your pH can throw all your chemistry off. And then hardness, your water hardness itself.
So is it practical to use distilled water? Or?
No, you can use just water agents. So we have like a Nutrien ourselves. We actually offer a lot of water conditioning agents, and we have adjuvants that are actually combined with water conditioning agents too. So I would honestly personally do that. I wouldn't be spending the money on distilled water. I would be staying as cheap as I could. The water quality conditioners will cost you 70 cents to 100 gallons. So at the end of the day, it's really not that expensive, and it's worth doing. If you want some more water quality info, I'm happy to actually talk about that for several hours. I love water quality. It's one of my favorite classes. I'm sorry, I'm running a little over right now. But it's definitely a great class. I have some business cards, so I'm happy to hand them out, and we can talk water quality all day. I'll come test your sites. I have my own water testing kits, the whole 9 yards, that will actually come out, and we'll test your sites. We are guys that go out on site with y'all. So the guy who will be replacing me, we are field techs. We do not sit in an office. We go out on site with all of y'all. We do sell chemical. That is our primary job. But our other secondary aspect is to be out there helping y'all, training, teaching, educating, identifying, whatever it may be that we need to do. We are that field expert for you. And this is the cool stuff. And this will be where I end. Do we have audio? Can anyone guess where that was filmed? This is the question. This is how you get a knife tonight. Looks like Texas. You're wrong on that one, unfortunately. I wish I was back home, but I was not on that one. Wyoming, you're getting a little closer, actually. We are going up north. You are correct on that. Maybe start heading to the west a little. Yeah, a little bit further west. Keep going west. As far west as, there you go. Come see me at the end of class today, Marco. I'll get your info and we'll get you a knife, brother. That was out in Washington State, actually. So we were up in Washington. It's funny that you brought up the Mount job. We are actually the ones that are taking care of all the restoration work on Mount St. Helens right now. And we are doing it with UAVs. All right, questions?
Size of one of those that we were just looking at.
That one will be about the size of, he'd probably eat up the back of a truck a little bit, but a lot of it is break apart and a lot of it's foldable. So once you fold that guy down and actually get him all the way down, he'll fit into the back seat.
What were you spraying for?
We were actually doing a water drop on that one. It was just a demonstration for people. So we didn't even do any conditioners or we didn't even do any adjuvants on that one. I have some live spray demos and videos that we don't really put out 100%. We're starting to build it up and we're starting to get some stuff kind of on it. A lot of that stuff we're keeping a little bit close to chest right now, just until we finally finish up this manual that I've been writing for the last year or so, and we're gonna kind of get that guy launched, and that'll be kind of our launch out to start getting everyone out and interested a little bit more into it as well. We've done Toradon, we've done Duracore, aminopyralids, milestones, all that fun stuff. Duracore is the new milestone. Has everyone heard of that one? High Noon, that's the other one that's came out. Corteva's gonna really want me to make sure I talk about those too while I'm here. But they're the new aminopyralids. They do a great job. So if you got some thistle issues, don't be afraid of grabbing some Duracore High Noon, running those. We ran those through drones. We ran a lot of aquatics. That's been quite a big seller. I didn't think that we would be in the aquatics market as heavily as we are, but it is definitely getting heavier and heavier. We take care of 5 major lakes throughout Kansas. So it's a pretty big market for us right now, and it's starting to become bigger and bigger. We had 6 other lakes come approach us literally this last month alone about coming and taking care of them. So it seems like the aquatics market is really picking up with it as well. The cool thing on it is the Pelican just got its final approval through the FAA. So that's a fixed wing UAV that can do 100 acres an hour by itself. So it's a beast. And he's going to kind of be the row crop guy of the year, as we put it. That's going to probably find a really good home in those row crops, and that'll be kind of where it ends up finding its home. The rotor-winged are kind of finding a home in the range environment and the specialty markets, going in aquatic, riparian areas, stuff like that. That's really kind of being their home right now.
Are you working any on public land or is it private?
I work public, private, the whole 9 yards. So we've done stuff on BLM, USFS. We've worked with the National Park Service on some applications as well, too. I've worked with the CSFS as well, too, on a couple applications, too.
What's the cost?
Depends on the model. The T30 is going to cost you $22,000 altogether, and that'll be all the batteries you need, all the...
Oh, you sell the equipment?
No, I don't sell the equipment. I can hook you up with a guy who does.
No, what's the cost to us to use your service?
Oh, I'll talk about that offline, if you're all right with that, just because I do have a competitor technically in here, and I don't really want to be just voicing everything. So that's I'll talk to you about that offline. Happy to. It is, if I were to compare it to conventional equipment, though, I would say we are beyond affordable. And if that gives you a good indication. No. Any other questions? Thank you all.